from there, it kind of moves decently rapidly because
Yeah.
by
Yeah, I was 14 when that moment happened.
and then by 17, you're like filling in for Andrea Bocelli
Yeah.
because he's stuck in Europe.
Yeah.
And Celine Dion and him are supposed to perform. And you have a singing teacher who recommends you as a stand-in.
So this is why it took me 10 years
Like, what?
to start to like find what who I was within this incredible success, because I mean, we're talking fast. And I know with today's, I did not have TikTok and all those other things where you can find an audience.
But you lived in LA.
Even without a label. I lived in LA, but not with showbiz parents at all.
Which makes it even more unique.
My mom was an art teacher, an art educator, and she kind of became full-time mom, and she does philanthropy work with me now. And my dad is, an executive recruiter. He's like, well, I've got a meeting with the vice president of, Honda in Southern California today. I'll see you kids later. Both very artistic, both very musical, but not at all like stars in their eyes for me or my brother to be in the arts or in entertainment at all. I didn't even know any kids that had like showbiz parents. But I did go to school I went to elementary school with a kid whose dad was a big, I think he's still teaching, big vocal coach named Seth Riggs. And as a Boy Scout, we got to have a trip to his house, and like our Boy Scout troop got to like run through a lesson with him, and he heard me sing at that. And later on, after that moment happened in high school, he's like, "Hey, if you ever want to come over, I'll give you a discount." Because this guy was like, Stevie Wonder was like walking out of the studio. Janet Jackson was there. He was working with like some of the biggest pop stars of the time, and so he's like, "I'll give you discounted lessons. You're a friend of my son's, and I'll give you lessons." So, I took him up on it, and I took some lessons and just kind of enjoyed doing it. And then one day, David Foster called him and said, well, I'm here at the Grammys, and Andrea Bocelli can't show up. He's in Germany. He'll be here hopefully tomorrow for the show, but we need somebody who can sing with Celine. Celine's going to be here, and we need a singer. And send me 5 tapes of students. Who have you got? And I was one of 5, tapes that he sent to David, and David picked my tape. And he's like, "This is interesting. This kid's young, and this might be a fun opportunity for him." But again, because I hadn't been conditioned growing up to think, here's your moment, here's your opportunity. My parents are just like, oh, Celine Dion. Yeah, I like that beautiful love songs. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to see the vice president of, whatever, Pepsi Cola. So, I mean, we were all blissfully ignorant about what that meant and who David Foster was. I knew all his songs and all his albums, but I didn't read the liner notes. I didn't know that was David Foster. So, I'm there at the Grammys, and Celine shows up, and she sees just what a nervous wreck I am. And because I was just, literally blink. And that kid who had to be pulled out of the choir was suddenly on stage with Celine, and mature-wise, like emotionally mature, confidence-wise, there was no difference in me between those 3 years. I was a young 17. And the reason that I was able to get through that moment was because Celine saw, and she had to get it very quickly because she was there for, I now know from having like sung on the Grammys and like done a bunch of TV now, that like when you're there for a sound check with 1 million other artists, you're on very quickly. You have like 5 minutes to get your sound right, camera blocking, and then next thing you know, you're going to be live to 20 million people. So for her, that was a big work shed moment for her. She needed to get her stuff right. And also there's this kid on stage who's replacing her duet partner, Andrea. And she could have been like, "Okay, hi, nice to meet you. Anyway, this is what I've got to do. Have a great day and a great life." She saw an opportunity for me. And David's like, this is Josh, and he's going to do this. And she's like, "Oh, hello." And she was so nice to me. And she really took time to like connect with me and say, "Are you okay? How do you feel? This is going to be all right." And I had the lyrics printed out, the Italian lyrics printed out in my hand from my dad's printer in his home office. And like I'm clutching onto it for dear life, and it's crumpled, and my hand is shaking, and I had just gotten it that morning. And I'm a baritone, and this, Andrea is like one of the great tenors who's ever lived, and so I'm having to like squeeze the tight pants to get up to that note for this rehearsal. But youth, I was able to do it. But she noticed the nerves, she noticed the shaking. She took my hand. She's like, "I don't know what the staging is going to be tomorrow night, but right now the staging is I'm taking your hand and we're walking to the front." And she connected with me in a way that she could have viewed it at her stature. She could have viewed it as I'm doing a solo with I'm going to work on me, and this kid is here for their purposes, but I'm going to work on me. She was there duetting with me as if I had been her duet partner her whole life, and that got me through it. And that's who Celine is. And it's those moments that just kind of that change everything, and I'll always be grateful.
What do you learn in that moment?
I learned in that moment that that's the kind of artist I wanted to be going forward. If anything were to ever happen for me, that I want to be the kind of person who is as giving on stage and off stage as Celine was to me in that moment. It's why I love working with students. It's why I love working with young singers. It's why I love in a concert, sometimes people come up on stage, people that were as young as I was at that moment come up and say, hey, I would never have been the kid to raise my hand in an arena of people and say, can I sing with you? But it's great because you never know what that's going to pass on to the rest of their career, the rest of their life. And it taught me to do things in a way that gives them that when nobody's looking. Nobody was looking on that day. For all she knew, that could have been my one day of singing professionally, and I was going off to be a lawyer. Nobody was paying attention. Nobody had their phones out. This was before phones had cameras. She did it the right way when nobody was looking, and that was the lesson.
What a beautiful person.
Yeah, truly.
Really special.
The real deal.
Whoa.
The real deal. I've met people that are different in their interviews and in their persona than they are in the way they work when nobody's looking. And, you learn from that too. And it can be disappointing. But generally, I've been very, very lucky that I've met and worked with artists that are that way, that do it that way, because they put themselves in their shoes. It's just empathy, and you can lose sight of that.